Hello and welcome to Responsible Government Contracting. This workshop is part 2 of a 3-part series introducing government contracting. Today, Mr. Andy Bennett will discuss researching and finding opportunities with the government. Thank you, and find us on the web at nc-rgc.com.
So today we're going to be doing part 2 of the 3-part series. And my name's Andy Bennett, and I am going to walk you through some government acquisitions today. Keith, it's going to be you and me. So let's, I'm going to open this up. If you have questions, go ahead and stop me. And I'd like to use your business or your concept as my guinea pig today, so we can actually do some research.
Awesome.
Beneficial for you and really kind of hone in what it is and how the process works. So without further ado, let's do a little bit of a refresher. And I like to start out with this because it kind of hits home and at least reestablishes that it's okay to struggle with this. We've been doing it for a minute. We've been doing it for over 200 years. So a lot of that red tape that we talked about last time has built up over time.
Mm-hmm.
These pictures go back to, and if you've joined one of my workshops, oh, we lost him. You still there? Okay, there we go. These pictures go back to Colonial Williamsburg and Jamestown from a recent family trip, and just got to see some of the actual personas, the people that are playing those roles, well-researched kind of roles. and what they found is the gentleman who's working the forge right there, he told me, yes, we have documentation that people in the Colonial Williamsburg era in the 1700s, they were actually small business owners that were contracted by the local militias, local militaries, even the British, to provide their services and their works. So government reaching out to industry for support, contracts, professional services, products has been going on for a long, long time. And it's okay that that it's challenging. Ask questions. There's a lot of history, a lot of scars and calluses that have been built up over time. So it's not the it's not the most straightforward process, and that's okay.
Yes.
So just be patient with yourself. All right. So just kind of as a refresher, like I said, from part 1, today we're going to really dive into how these people think, so that we can research in their terms. So that's the objective for today. We want to find, this is like reverse classified ads. We want to find the opportunity that they are posting that fits us, fits your business, your capabilities, but they don't know your business as well as you do, and you don't know exactly what words they're going to use to describe what it is that you do. So that we're gonna try and solve that bridge today.
Okay.
As a reminder, the finance people, they help the bills get paid. They're not in the decision-making process, the awarding process. They are in the back office. They are advising. They are processing. They are helping you get your accounts receivables, your invoices paid on time. Just as a reminder, ask your contracting officer for prompt payment, for accelerated payment, because as a small business, you can get net 10 terms. So that's very, very beneficial. You just have to ask for it. Not all contracting officers include it. They don't care. It's the government. They've got the money. They don't get a bonus if they hold on to it longer, or they short pay you. So they want the cash flow. They understand that, and law is actually on your side there. The Prompt Payment Act helps you out as a small business. The commander, the boss, again, job titles are going to change agency to agency, office to office. Just from a commander perspective, this is the CEO, this is the president of the organization, but for their signature authority. Government folks in that capacity can order a soldier to go, take that hill, but they can't pay for the copy printer to restock the office printer. It's bonkers. It's crazy. It is what it is. The contracting officers are the only ones, and kind of skipping ahead here a little bit, the contracting officers are the only ones that have that authority. The commander gives the broad intent, the broad direction. Guys, men, women, this is the direction that our organization is going, but they're not the ones that are making the contract awards. When the boss is talking, the end users are listening. This is the direction we're going. Okay, in order to get there, these are the specific, projects that we're going to be focusing on. Those projects turn into contract opportunities, big, small, multiple, single. That's where that process starts. Those end users, this is like a project manager, program manager, operational type person. This is your closest government person to the work being done. This is the government person who knows the details, the specifics, the nuances of what the work is to be done. If anybody in that office is going to know, the details of it, it's going to be this person or this group.
Okay.
The end user shifts that information through some documentation. It's called a need statement. That turns into the statement of work or performance work statement. That goes over to the contracting officer. Those details, if you are in the sales cycle and you are talking to those end users ahead of time, then that's where you socialize what it is that you do, what makes your approach, your certifications, your 15-inch monitor versus your competitor's 14-inch monitor better, faster, cheaper than the other guy, right? So that is who you have that conversation with, the end users. So that end user, again, shifts that information over to the contracting officer. The contracting officer does the competition. So that line, that you don't go around, this is the inside trading kind of thing. Once that contracting officer starts the competitive process, once they start their process, don't talk to the end user anymore. Don't try and go around them. The contracting officer is gonna hang up on you if you try and call them. Candidly, you don't want to talk to them, because any of that type of stuff, and you get, in this world, it's called OCI, official conflict of interest. In Wall Street, this is insider trading. So you don't want to do that. You want to have, email correspondence with the contracting officer. They will respond to if you have a question, you will ask it over email. The contracting officer will capture all of those questions that everybody has asked, and they will publish all of that Q&A, questions and answers, all together. They'll take your name off of it, but here's the question we got, here's the answer from the government, here's the question, here's the answer. So everybody has level playing field, right? So that's part of the process. Again, just looking at who the players are, who the people are, those four legs of the table. You'll hear a bunch about the Small Business Administration and Apex Accelerators and SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, and SCORE. That's another great resource. These are wonderful, wonderful resources, and they're free. And I highly encourage you to reach out and touch them. They will tell you the same thing that I'm telling you, with their nuances to it, but they are out there and they are able to help. They're swamped, they're flooded, they're very, very busy. So just kind of gauge that expectation when you set those meetings with them. Karen is over at the USF location. If you're in the Tampa area, I'm not sure, but yes, they do great work. And Yolanda is over on the Pinella side, and she does great work too. But again, just be patient with the scheduling side. In blue, I kind of show the difference here. So the folks in green, SBA, Small Business Administration, they don't have money. They're not going to write you contracts. They're not going to award you anything. So blue, that's an agency, that's an office. And just like a chain of command, a big company, right? They've got a lot of little directorates, a lot of little offices across their organization. So the boss, in this case, Jane Doe, she's that commander. She's that person in charge of that office. Okay. And when she sets the tone, when she gives that direction, It's the folks like Tim and Troy down there, the end users that are paying attention and doing their thing. Tim is going to go over to, Lucy and do the contracting process, right? So that's the interface. You can just a tip here, when you start corresponding or emailing with these government folks, look at their email address, because that's an easy indicator to know who you're talking to. In this case, all of these folks sit at FEMA, but the SBA folks are going to have sba.gov email addresses. So you can just kind of pick up on that there. All right. The process, this is important to understand, because when we start doing the research, we're going to start to see these terms. So I want to spend a minute talking about the steps so that you've at least heard it before.
Yes, I have.
Don't get scared with this because there are a lot of steps, but not every opportunity, not every contract goes through all of these steps. These are the same steps if they're building, space shuttles or rockets or, aircraft carriers, as if they're buying, printer paper. So just, kind of understand it's one process. That internal government part beforehand, they're going to talk about what the requirements are. Obviously, we're not part of that conversation. They do often publish that, that list. Here's what our objectives are, our forecasts are, even down to the office level. So you can find that. But as we start to go through the competitive process, once that end user has defined the requirement, Keith, looks like you're joining in here again. Let me.
Yeah, I'm on my laptop. Yes.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm doing too many things at once. Sorry. All right, so I just let you in there.
Awesome. Thank you.
So
Bigger screen.
yeah, no, of course. Yeah, it gets the text gets kind of small here. Okay, so that early process is all under the pre-solicitation umbrella, right? So when we start talking about this, pre-solicitation is kind of a catch-all term for the early shopping around. And this is where a contracting officer can go out and not have any idea what types of computers are available to them, or what types of drinks. Let's just use drinks. So if a contract officer wants something to drink, and that's what the requirement is from their end user, they're going to go out and say, okay, well, I want to do some market research, or I want to do I want to do a request for information, I want to do a sources sought. Very small nuances between each of these three, but basically it's the contracting officer saying, hey, tell me what types of drinks are available, right? I don't know what type of drink I want yet, but tell me about drinks. So some companies may respond with, hey, I bottle water, or I do milk or orange juice or sodas or alcohol, or whatever the type of drink is that they provide. And they're going to provide that in usually a page or two, right? So this is not a full proposal. This is not pricing. This is information. This is educating the contracting officer about what's available to them, market research, okay? Request for information, we'll look at that in a little bit more detail. But request for information usually still early, so they're not looking for pricing, but this usually comes with some questions. And the contracting officer is probably going to ask, 3 to 10 questions, and make darn sure that you respond to each one of them. All right. And it's not going to be pages and pages. This may be, 2 or 3 pages, 5 pages, not more than that. So they, again, are doing this to understand what it is that they're buying, what is available to them. Great opportunity for you to shine and say, I know my market. I know what I'm talking about. I provide water, milk, orange juice, soda, blah, 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 blah. So it's a great opportunity for you to start to build that relationship. Sources sought. I do these workshops and I talk to you as if you're a small business owner, because 9 times out of 10, that's the audience here. So as a small business owner, this is a for sure area you want to pay attention to.
Okay.
Why? Because
Now, for the record,
Yeah.
I'm going to cut you off. It's just
Yeah.
me and you.
Yeah.
I'm registered on the SAM. I think I got. My goal is to be a prime.
Okay.
My background is retail for 20 plus years and real estate since 2015. So I know I know how the process works. Contract, you find vendors to match up with the contract. So when they're requesting information, they're
Mhm.
reaching out to the product expert because they don't know much about that. Is that correct?
They may know a little bit about it, but they don't know the
Mm-hmm.
details about it. And
Right.
they're doing their research to make sure that they're asking the right questions.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
So they understand, which I appreciate, right? This step of the process. They understand that they don't know all things about all things. That
Mm.
contracting officer not being the end user. The end user is a subject matter expert. So
Yes,
that
sir.
contracting officer has to understand enough about the thing they're buying, product or service, in order to do a fair competition. And that's
Gotcha.
at the end of the day, the name of the game.
Gotcha.
So that sources sought step, right? So this one that's kind of, where's my little mouse go? There we go. So
Yep.
this sources sought step,
Mm-hmm.
this one's special
Okay.
because the contracting officer, if they go to that step, if they do a sources sought, they're doing that for one reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called the rule of two.
Mm-hmm.
Small business, like we talked about in part one, the contracting officers are required to do about a quarter of their budget, 23.7% every single year with total small businesses. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Inside of that, 5% with minority owned companies,
Mm-hmm.
a different 5% with woman owned companies, a different 5% with veteran owned companies, and then another 3% with hub zone,
Hub zone.
underutilized
Mm-hmm.
business zone. So 5, 5, 3, 3. If put yourself in that contracting officer's shoes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You are not the subject matter expert, but you're going through this market research step, but you really have this, kind of sword hanging over you every single day for the year that you have to meet these small business objectives. And any opportunity that's under $250,000, because they're going to kind of get a good idea. It's called the independent government cost estimate. So when they do that cost estimate, when they do that internal research to say what they think it's going to cost, the budget, if that's under $250,000, then it has to be awarded to a small business. They have to jump through
Mm.
hoops if they don't award it to a small business. They go through exhaustive research to find small businesses that can do that thing, whatever it is.
Gotcha.
So when they're going through the sources sought, they're looking for small businesses to provide that requirement. And if the rule of two, if they get two or more minority-owned companies, or two or more woman-owned companies, or two or more, veteran, hub zone, whatever the category is, then that contracting officer can set aside that competition for just
Mm.
that category.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now they're gonna check the small business box, right? Because in order
Right.
to be one of those categories, you have to first be a small business.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they can say, okay, I got two minority-owned companies to respond to my source of sought. So I know there's going to be some level of competition out there. There's some interest out there. So I'm going to set aside this effort for just minority-owned companies, and nobody else can compete,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So it's very, very important. And I see this all the time also. Contracting officers will do the pre-solicitation phase, and only the companies that respond get contacted for the solicitation for that competition.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
They will take it off of the street. They will remove that requirement
Wow.
publication, and that contracting officer will only directly email that small group that responded to the pre-solicitation steps. So not responding to that pre-solicitations, those early steps may prevent you from, seeing the competition at all.
Right.
Just just keep that in mind.
Yes. 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 Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I highly recommend doing that. All right. So kind of fast forward. There's a couple other things that go on in this process. The industry days, that's kind of open. These are more for things where a site survey, like janitorial work, if you're doing something on
Yes.
site where you need to actually see the types of floors you're cleaning or lawns that you're mowing, or if there's like a special type of video teleconferencing system that's being installed, you need to see the walls and the conduit and everything. They might do an industry day to, let you walk the site to actually
Gotcha.
see, lay eyes on the site, because, pictures and, text are going to do stuff, but it's not like being there. And really the government's role is not to play gotcha. They're not trying to, stick it to you. They what they don't want to do, what the contracting officer does not want to have happen, is get a default contract, right? Where they're doing the competition, they award it to a company, and then that company's not able to perform the work.
Right.
Right. So that's the thing that they're trying to protect against. All right.
Yes, sir.
So that industry day kind of helps along that process. Draft RFPs, the request for proposal. Draft RFPs is another way. Hey, industry, companies, here's what we think we're going to put out for the actual solicitation. Give us your feedback. And they'll post it for the bigger ones. They usually do that. They'll do that for, a couple of months. Let companies read and ask questions. And then the contracting officer can make revisions as they want to, and then they move forward with the solicitation, a cleaner solicitation, more clean solicitation. Right. So now we go down to that, below the red line there. The red line's there for a reason. This is that do not cross line. All right. Some contracting officers kind of, move that forward, but this is really the line in the sand. Once that RFP once that draft becomes a real RFP and it's published, don't phone call a friend. Don't, reach out to the end user. Don't reach out to any of your buddies or anything like that. You don't want to talk to those guys. You want to just email the contracting officer. That's your primary point of contact. Stick with that and do the formal communication so that you can be considered for award. The RFP is going to, they're going to post it. This is the classified ad, right? So they're going to post it. You're going to respond to it. Usually you have 30 days or so to respond to them. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And then there are some other steps that they can do. You don't see these all the time, but there are other steps that they can go through. They can go through orals. Hey, top 5 companies. I'm going to invite you in, or we're going to do it over, video, and we're going to do a question and answer discussion. It's just going to be government and one company at a time, but it's kind of a chance to, peel the onion back a little bit more on the proposal. Orals is usually a one-way street where the company is talking and briefing or presenting to the government. Discussions is another option, and that's closer to kind of a negotiation. It should be called negotiation, but it's called discussions. And then the last one is BAFO, best and final offer. If you get a BAFO from a contracting officer, you are either going to get the award or you are in the top 2. All right. Okay. So if you get a BAFO, that's your opportunity to sharpen your pencil one last time. Cost just a little bit more, but but you stand the risk that the other guy is, and then they get the award. All right. So again, I don't have a problem with that because it's the contracting officer trying to save taxpayer dollars, and they're negotiating. I get it. You're a business. It's capitalism is a wonderful thing. You have to make those decisions, but you stand the risk of losing. So, make that call yourself. All right. So that's the process. We're going to remember those terms when we actually go to find the opportunities here next. Okay. I introduced NAICS codes before, North American Industry Classification System, right? That NAICS.com website, NAICS.com. That site, keyword search, treat it like Google, and just find that 6-digit code, that NAICS code, that best fits what you do. Okay. And there's probably going to be 5, not usually more than 10. There's going to be more than one usually that kind of fits, that describes what you do. Remember those, jot them down. You want them on your SAM profile when you do your registration.
Is there a minimum amount of codes I should have on my profile? Just one, right?
Yeah, one's the required because you have to have a primary NICE code.
What's the max? Should I have too many, or what's?
That threshold is my personal, there's not a right answer here, right? So
Okay.
my personal opinion, my professional opinion is about 10.
Okay.
If you start getting above 10, you're shotgunning it. Hey, I'm going to be, I'm just going to try and cast a net out there and see what I catch.
Right.
So, kind of focus it a little bit.
Yes, sir.
All right. So that NICE code, this is what that document looks like to actually determine if you are a small business or not. There are 1,307 definitions of what is a small business.
Yeah.
This is just one of those pages, just, screenshot from that document. And if you are a security guard, for example, if that's your line of business, this is going to be your NICE code. And you either have information in this column or in this column, not both. So it's either one or the other.
Yes, sir.
If you are a security guard, your size standard, the definition of a small business for security guard companies is $25.5 million average gross receipts for the previous 5 years. So
Okay.
if your company is gross revenue of $30 million every year for the past 5 years, congratulations, you're now not a small business anymore, right? But if you're
Wow.
under the threshold, then you're a small. And then if you're down here, right? So this is what the other side looks like. If your business is environmental remediation services, then your small business category is employee count. And this is how many W-2 employees you have, and that's 750. All right,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
cool. Okay, so let's start looking at how to research. Because if you're a company that sells chairs, right? That's what you do. That's your product. You sell chairs. Well, you can do that keyword search that Andy said and find that your NICE code may be this, 337214. Okay, maybe that's right. But if that contracting officer comes up and does some searching and finds something else, guess whose opinion matters? And it's not mine, it's not yours.
Sure, you're right. You're right.
So that contracting officer is going to do the same thing, and they're going to pick what NICE code they think best fits.
Right.
And if it's construction, they're not going to pick the plumbing. They're not going to pick the carpentry. They're not going to pick the electrical. They're going to pick that general contractor, right? So they're going to pick that catch-all that captures all of those little pieces of the pie.
Right.
If you're in janitorial services, you may be 561,720, but you could also be this one, and you could also be that one. So that's why I say you probably don't want to just look at one.
Yes.
10. So there's going to be kind of a sweet spot, and it's different for everybody. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what does that look like in real life? I'm going to show you a slide or two of it, and then we're going to actually go to the website. Okay. And this is where I'm going to know your info. Okay. So if I'm in janitorial services and I do my searching for that NICE code, then I'm going to find that opportunity. I'm also going to find that opportunity, but I'm not going to find this one. And that's where you have just shot yourself in the foot. Since you are putting blinders on in your early stage for shopping around, for hunting for opportunities, you are not even seeing a third of the opportunities that are possible for you. And these are real. These are screenshots from real opportunities.
Right.
Okay, so now let's take a look at what the sites actually look like here. And you should be seeing my website. You should be seeing a website now.
Yes, sir. Sam.gov.
All right. So I'm going to sign out just so I can sign back in so you guys can see it. All right. I'm going to pull up my handy dandy, authenticator. I do it through my phone. You can do it lots of different ways. But remember that login.gov thing we talked about in part 1. So I'm going to sign in, accept. I'm going to, my username and password are already in there. Sign in. And now I have a token through my authenticator app. And now I'm in. Okay. So it's going to bring you to your workspace, which is normal, but you want to go up here to search. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better here. Okay, so all I did was I clicked on search.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to select domain, and then I'm going to click on contract opportunities. All right, now I see contract opportunities here. Let's see. Oh, no, that didn't work. All right, so I'm going to see contract opportunities here.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to go through what some of these other, things mean. I'm actually curious. I'm going to use you as a guinea pig for a second and see if I can annotate on my screen.
Okay.
Let's do. All right, I will figure that out another time.
Okay, no, I got time.
So when we go through here, we did the contract opportunities, we're in the search, and now we're going to start looking at, and remember those things, there's a reason why I went through that early stuff before. All right, so the first thing I've got, and this is just like Amazon, where you can do the keyword search at first, and then you can start to filter off to the left. Same concept. So federal organizations. This is where it gets a little wonky. There's a couple of places where this gets a little crazy. And you are looking for opportunities with FEMA, and you put FEMA in there. All I'm going to do is start typing federal emergency. All right, so all I have to do is start typing the name of the organization, and it's going to start to pop up. And all I do is I click on that. Well, okay, that might make sense in logic, but if I'm looking for opportunities from FEMA, go back to this this slide here about those different legs of the table. Well, the challenge is that FEMA organization representing the end user, or is it representing the contracting officer? Because it's not always the same. And this is where it's crazy bonkers. Because the Army will use the Air Force to do their contracting. The Air Force will use NASA to do its contracting. Navy will use National Institutes for Health. It is disjointed and, again, crazy bonkers. So if you are looking for a federal organization, but you're looking for work that if you clear debris after a hurricane, you think, oh, well, the no-brainer, that's going to be FEMA. And you put FEMA in here. Well, you don't know if FEMA is outsourcing that contracting to NASA, and NASA contracting officer, Joe Schmuckatelli, put NASA as the organization instead of FEMA as the organization. So it's not consistent. So just be aware of that. So I leave that blank. I leave that blank.
Awesome.
Dates. So this one, there's a little trick here. If you do that pull down for any time, where it shows there, I do custom date. I select custom date. And I know, let's just say for myself, today's, December 19th. I know that if there's an opportunity that's due at noon on December 19th, I'm not going to get it together in time. I am not going to be, it's a waste of my time to see that opportunity. I don't even want to know it exists. So just don't even tell me about it.
Is that date based off the date of the actual contract or the actual submission date?
Well, you tell me here. So it's the response date offers due. So it's
response date is due. Okay, response date.
Yeah. So that response date, I selected custom, and I know that it takes me, with the type of business that I'm in, in my industry, and with how much time I need to gather all the information and put a proposal together that I'm proud of, it's going to take me 3 days. So let's just say I'm going to start my research on things that are due not earlier than the 22nd. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
I don't care about opportunities that are coming out 5 years from now. That's too far down the road. I'm a small business. I need
Now.
now, right?
Right. Right.
So my from, it gives me enough time to get a proposal together. My to is going to be let's go a few months out. Let's go out to fall of 24. So let's go out to September of 2024. So now that's my window. Okay, that anything that's that time are things that are going to reflect.
Okay.
I leave updates alone. That's if there's modifications or whatever, I don't use that, but certainly play around with it. Notice type. This is where you're going to be thankful that I put that process up there a second ago. So I'm going to click through these and I'm going to talk about them. So you want pre-solicitation. I recommend pre-solicitation, combined synopsis, solicitation, combined, and that is it. Okay. So there are some other options. Or sources sought to. Whoops, almost missed that one. All right, so there are some other options, but I don't care about award notification because that means somebody else got it. I don't want to see that.
Right.
There's some other stuff. Justification 99 times out of 1,000. That means they know who they want and they're checking boxes to make sure that they are compliant with regulations. All right, so justifications, J&As are, just I would not waste your time on those. So these are the 5 pre-solicit. I'll let you read them, but these are the 5 that I recommend keep in your search.
Okay.
And
Consolidate.
I'm going to put this link. I'm going to put this recording on my website, so don't stress about having to take all the notes here right now. All right.
All right. Appreciate it.
No worries. So now I'm going to go down to the next one. The next one up is product service information. I've been talking a lot about NAICS codes because that's what the contracting officers have to use, and that's how small businesses is defined, right? So there's a lot of things that are central on NAICS codes. There are other things called, PSC codes. You can play around with those, of course, very similar, but PSC codes is, similar type thing to NAICS codes. So let's use that. What was that one for? Actually, let's use you. Let's go through a little exercise here. What is your line of business? You said retail. What's your line of business?
Well, I'm a realtor by trade.
Realtor, not retail. I apologize. Okay.
Yeah. Trying to go to the prime route if I can do anything. So but realtor is by trade. Yes, sir.
Okay. Real estate. Is that fair to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's do, I'm going to drink my own Kool-Aid here and go to Nikes.com. I'm going to type in my keyword search because I don't know off the top of my head all 1,300 of these. I know some of them, but not all of them. So let's say, this is what Nikes, spits out here. So why don't you call out, 2 or 3 that kind of, jump out at you?
The first one, 531-190 leasers. That's the easiest thing.
Okay, let's start. Let me show you what happens when I start that. So when I literally just copied and pasted into
and it popped up, right? Populated just like that.
So I'm going to click on it and it comes out green here. All right, so let's add another couple.
There's the management services. So what 531-110. 531-110.
531-110. This one down here? Okay, copy and paste. There it is. Okay. So let me show you something else that happens. NAICS codes get more specific the longer they go. They only go to 6 digits, but they get more specific the longer you go. So if you just start typing in that 53, look at what happens.
The whole category comes up.
Real estate section opens up.
Gotcha.
So 53 and then 531, right? So 53 is real estate and rental leasing, but 531, see how they separate 531 versus So if you're in real estate and you just capture 531, That's everything. And you
Oh,
don't have to
wow.
know which of the 6 digits you want to play with. So just
Right.
another little tip and trick to help out there. And
Appreciate it.
if I put 3 here, that's okay, because it's going to capture, this isn't or thing. This is
Mm-hmm.
any of these. All right,
Right. Right. Right.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Okay.
Let's go to set aside. This is another one that gets a little tricky, because Andy, you were talking about that source of SOT and that, going through the process and checking the boxes for small business. It's a big deal. Yes,
Uh-huh.
but think through it,
Yes,
because if
sir.
you're a contracting officer, all right, and you are in this stage up here,
Mm-hmm.
do you know yet if it's going to be a woman-owned small business? Do you
No.
know yet if it's going to be a minority? Do you know yet if
No.
there's enough veteran-owned companies that are interested to set it aside? No.
No.
So if you are limiting competition because you're a minority-owned company and you think, I just want to look for things that are set aside to minority-owned companies, then you are shooting yourself in the foot, because you are
Mm-mm.
taking all of that
Yep.
market research and pre-solicitation stuff off the table.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I recommend leaving this one blank.
Yes, sir.
Leave this one blank again, just, because you don't know where they are in the process. So leave it.
Right.
All right, place of performance. This is another crazy bonkers one, because that knucklehead at NASA, Joe Schmuckatelli, put down himself because he's the contracting officer, but the real work is being done in Florida, because that's where the hurricane is. So
Right.
place of performance is another tricky one too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and it's called the funding agency versus the contracting agency. The funding agency is that end user, the ones that are, responsible for the work. The
Yes, sir.
contracting agency is the contract officer. So sometimes they put the contracting agency, sometimes they put the funding agency, but I leave this one blank so that you don't
Mm-hmm.
miss opportunities there.
Correct.
And then active defaults automatically, so you don't need to mess around with that. And then why would I put contract awardee in? Because I don't want things that have already been awarded. I want things that have
Mm-mm.
not been awarded yet. So I'm going to leave that blank.
Correct.
All right, so that is, and notice that as I put things in, the results automatically update. So I don't have to
Mm.
click anything else to, run the filter. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
It took a few minutes to put this in, so save yourself time next week or tomorrow, whenever you want to run this again, and save, click on this little dot, dot, dot there,
Mm-hmm.
save, let's do real estate. Remember that we put dates in. So if you just save this in January, if you ran this in January, you're going to want to update those
The
custom
date.
dates. So just,
Correct.
kind of pay attention to that kind of stuff. But if you
Gotcha.
save it, you don't have to,
Keep
recreate.
keying it over and right.
Right. Okay. So now with that filter, I've got 141 results, real
Mm-hmm.
opportunities that are open competitive bids at some stage right now. Okay, so there's some stuff to be done there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to teach you another little tip and trick here. I have the type of mouse that I have has a
Mm-hmm.
scroll wheel on it.
Mm-hmm.
Different my, whatever the device is, doesn't matter. And I use Chrome as my browser.
Correct.
I have found that if I click on that scroll wheel, okay, I'm going to show you what happens. If this is a link, I'm going to click on the scroll wheel, and I just saved myself. I'm going to show you how this will save you some time, because now it just opened up that link.
No way. Oh
Yeah,
my
watch
goodness.
this. So I know that I'm a small business owner myself, and I know that you don't have time. This is not your day job. This is my day job.
Yeah. Yes.
Going through these opportunities and looking at them could take you hours and hours and hours, and
It has.
you go run your business, right? So this needs to be as efficient as possible. So one thing that I do is I have that filter saved, I run it, bam, got my results, 141 today. Okay, I'm living life good. I'm going to look at these because this right here is one opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
This right here is the next opportunity, right? So you can see how they kind of separated out by these lines.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm interested in that one, great. I'm going to do my little wheelie trick and open up a new tab. I'm not going to go look at it yet. I'm just doing that triage.
Okay.
I'm just doing
Okay.
that initial look right now. All right, not so much interested in that. Not really my thing. Notice of intent to lease space. Okay, other than full and open competition, that means they're going to set it aside. Okay, well, maybe that's of interest to me. So I'm going to do my little wheelie trick and click on that one. If you are in real estate, you're going to see a lot of these. This is the agency that mainly handles General Service Administration. They're usually the ones that handle office space for the government.
Okay.
So, okay, sure. Yeah, I know some folks out in San Francisco. Why not? Not really active in Texas. Okay, well, maybe training space, they don't really specify. So maybe I'm interested in that. And I'll go through this and I'm not going to, I'm doing a quick look.
Ooh, Largo. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, okay, well, Largo, Florida, you said you were in Florida, so maybe that's interesting there. Okay, so great. And I can tell some information, I can see kind of the short description of it. It's a military thing through the Army, and it's the Army Corps of Engineers office in Jacksonville. All right.
Okay.
I know Largo, Florida. Okay, great. And current date offers due is February. So I've got a minute on this one. Okay. And it's the solicitation. So this is the RFP. They're not hunting, they're looking for bids. Okay.
Okay.
Whereas let's see a different one. Original pre-solicitation. So pre-solicitation, that's the top line, right? So they're doing some market research there, right? So different opportunities. Now I've gone through this. I can spend, as much time as I want to here, but I'm looking through these. Okay, I find the few that are of interest to me and not going to waste my time on the others. Another thing, I can put, 100 here, or I can just do the next page. That's dealer's choice for that, and it stays right. All right. So now I've gone through that triage. I've made it through as much as I can. I had my coffee. I made it through the 141, so I'm good to go. Now I have 5 or 10 of these tabs open across the top. Okay. Now I'm going to click on them and dive a little bit more deeply into each one of them. Okay. So now I can click on that first one and I click on the second one, and guess what happens? They're structured exactly the same. The information for each of these opportunities is going to be in the same spot for each individual. So your eyes can train to look at that same information all the time.
Okay.
Right. So that first one, sometimes there's a logo, sometimes there's not, but that's the agency. If you are keeping score at home, this is the number that you want to track. This is the social security number for that opportunity.
For each opportunity.
So
Okay.
if you
Notice
want to
ID.
track on a spreadsheet or a whiteboard or, some CRM system, this is the number that you want to track, because other, details can change. Sometimes, let me see if I grabbed one. I did not. Let me see if I can find one real quick. And I want to show you guys what an update looks like. Update. I know I saw one on the first page. Let's go back. Updated. There we go. All right. So let me show you what this guy looks like. And history. Sorry, I'm now making you seasick here. Hold on a second. Okay. So if I go to an early, here's one. Okay. So notice how this is just the name of the opportunity, and then it goes straight into this little white section down here. Whereas this one has this blue. What is that? So this tells me I'm looking at an old posting. Okay. So things change, and as they go through that process, that updates. So if you ever see that, just click here and it'll take you to the most current posting of that same opportunity. Okay.
Gotcha.
So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. All right. So let's go back to the one that we were looking at. So this is the current. This is the ID number for it. This kind of gives me the chain of command of who, the group is that's doing the work.
Mhm.
or needing the work, I should say. These are the Apex Accelerator guys that I mentioned before. Okay, so general information. In this section, I'm going to see that stage. What of those lines? These guys are in the top line. These are pre-solicitation. They're doing their market research. Original publish date. This is when it was published. This was today. This was
Mhm.
this was while we were on this class. This was
30
posted.
minutes ago.
Response date. So you have until January 12th. Don't mess around with the time. Don't mess around with the time. I've been doing this for 21 years and I still submit all my stuff 24 hours in advance.
Gotcha.
Don't mess around because you don't know if your email is going to crash. You don't know if Auntie Jane is going to need you to take her to the hospital. Don't mess around with the time. All right. This is just an archive date. You don't care about that. Inactive, you don't care about that. Here, let me find one that has something there. Ooh, there's not much. Okay, here we go. All right, notice under classification,
Ah,
this one has 8A posted. None of these other ones do. This one doesn't have anything here. It's blank. All right.
okay.
That means they either don't know or it's not going to be, it's going to be full and open.
Some total small business.
Right. If it were total small business, then it would say total small business. But when
Mm,
it says nothing, when it's blank like this, that means full and open. That means
okay.
Boeing
Anybody
can hit on this one if they want to, right?
Oh, okay.
Full and open means full and open.
Okay.
However, it's in pre-solicitation, so that doesn't mean it's going to always be full and open. Okay,
Okay.
it could set aside, like we talked about with the rule of two. All right, product code, that's just that PSC code and the NICE code. So these two are this is, the search parameters. Place performance,
Place.
likely this is South Carolina. All right, my confidence
Mm-hmm.
level is increasing that this is not the contracting officer, picking their location. This is likely where the work is to be performed.
Okay.
All right, delineated area. Okay, so they're giving you a range. They're giving you a geography to target. They need office space in that box.
Mm-hmm.
They need, and then they're telling you they need, parking spaces. They need it for 10 years. What this likely means is that they're gonna, actually, I would need to read the details on that. If that's, the base period is 5 years, and they give you an option for 10 years, we'd have to read the details on that. And then,
Specs.
they give you the specs on it. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty straightforward. Okay, so now they're in that pre-solicitation phase. So they're calling it, and again, terminology changes a little bit from agency to agency. So what I called an RFI, they're calling an expression of interest. Same thing. They're just calling it something different. So don't get hung up on that. So they are telling you, and we're running on time here. Okay. All right. So they're telling you those, in this case, there's 15 things. So they're telling you those 15 questions that they want answered in their pre-solicit, in their market research. All right. So what I would do is the first page is your capability statement. That's your cover sheet, your details, your contact information, your cage code, all that stuff. Pretty picture, all that stuff. Page 2 is your letterhead. And the way I do it is I say, okay, question number 1, name of owner. And then I put an indented bullet just below it and say the answer to that question. Then next one, question number 2. So it's very straightforward so that they can see and very clearly understand where the questions are and where the answers are. Okay, so it's very, very, very clear. Okay, so that's that. And then so if there are any links or attachments or anything like that, documents associated with it, they're going to show up here. It's a click, download, it's a PDF, you can download it. And guess what? There's human beings associated with it. So this is the contracting officer and their assistant. Usually it's a contracting officer and a contracting specialist or a procurement specialist or somebody like that. These are the folks that are going to be the experts. But again, don't call them,
Mm-hmm.
Don't call them and expect them to
Right.
answer. Sometimes you don't want them to answer. Okay, so I would email them and email them formally and, ma'am, sir, yes sir, no sir, kind of thing. Thank you for your time. Just be very respectful for them, of them.
Yes, sir.
Let them kind of take that from there. Because if they respond, first name, okay, got it. Okay, I'll just prove the point that there's a couple others that are the same structure. So this one looks like you have until
Ooh.
you have until the day after Christmas to respond. It is a full and open, it looks like, and it is a solicitation. So this is they are looking for a bid, and they likely know who they want because it is only out there for a few days, the 18th to 26th
Yeah.
over
So I
Christmas.
would just skip. So we just skip that one,
I
right?
would probably skip right by this one, but for today, I'm just going to show you that the other information is there. Okay, so place performance. They don't always post this, but it's there. Not as much detail in the information as before, but it's showing there. It looks like they already did. Actually, what probably happened here is like that first one we looked at. That was an
Yeah.
expression of interest. So they probably got who they know they want in that expression of interest. And now
And they
they're just going through
responded.
the process to put it to
Right.
that person, right? So,
Gotcha.
pay
Makes
attention to
sense.
that kind of stuff. All right. There aren't any attachments on. That's what happened. I'm almost sure of it now, right?
Yeah.
And then the contact person, yeah. So that's how it works. Okay. So
Okay.
just again, we went to Sam, we did the search, we saved it, we ran it. You can update these, save it. The only way you can save it is if you're signed in.
Mm-hmm.
Click through, read them, get through this triage as quickly as you can. Capture that notice ID so that you can
Gotcha.
go back and hunt for it. Because later you can come back in here when you log back in and just plug that notice ID right in there and it'll pull right up. Okay.
Because the update every minute on the hour, so it'd be difficult to try to find it if I didn't have that notice ID to track it. So, yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So just one last thing. I showed you
Mm-hmm.
based on the NICE code. All right. So we put these
Mm-hmm.
NICE codes in. But if I don't, right, and this is like Google search, you're not going to always get the thing you want on the first hit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to play around with it. So if I take off the NICE codes and I just do a keyword search there, I get a different set of results.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
so 141 as opposed to 49. So these have real estate, the words real estate in the solicitation somewhere, whereas the others were categorized under those NICE codes. So
Specific to those to those subcategories of real estate.
right. So just play around with it. Again, it's gonna be different, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of opportunities posted every single day. So
Yeah.
don't get frustrated if you only get one today because it'll be 1,000 tomorrow. All right.
Tomorrow. Correct.
All right. I appreciate your time. I'm out of time though. So I look forward to you joining on part 3, and we'll go through how to actually respond to some of these.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you for your time today. We hope this workshop was instructive and informative. Please find additional accredited courses and other support services on our website at nc-rgc.com